While the world of folklore and mythology is filled with certain archetypes, cryptids, and other mysterious phenomena and entities, it's always interesting when a dormant entity of some kind manifests for some reason during periods of social panic. The Popobawa is one such entity. Believed to have originated in nearby Tanzania on mainland Africa, the monster today is more associated with the tropical island of Zanzibar in the Indian Ocean, just off the coast of Tanzania. Although the entity, in terms of its folklore, has fluttered around the margins for several centuries, it was in the 1990s that some remarkable incidents took place that actually led to widespread social panic among men on the island of Zanzibar. The Popobawa, a small, hairy, ape-like entity with one eye, pointed ears and bat wings, became notorious for swooping into men's houses after dark and raping them. The name Popobawa itself is derived from a Swahili word combining both that of bat and wings. During the mid-1990s, there was a huge flare-up in Popobawa activity. In the village of Sogea, a 55-year-old man named Majaka Hamand, a farmer, believed he was having a dream, but then realised that some kind of monkey or ape-type entity was on top of him, and he was being woken up violently. "I couldn't imagine what was happening to me," he said. "You feel as if you are screaming with no voice. It was just like a dream, but then I was thinking this was the Popobawa, and he had come to do something terrible to me, something sexual. It's worse than what he does to women. I was frightened by it." The modern sightings of the Popobawa first took place in 1972, with isolated clusters of attacks being reported on islands around Zanzibar's coast, including the larger island of Pemba. This happened soon after the assassination of the country's president, and fears erupted as the Popobawa instructed its victims unless they told others of their ordeal, it would be back. Which is interesting because the Popobawa wanted its victims to tell the world they had been sodomized in a country where homosexuality is greatly frowned upon. The shame of having been sodomized being compounded by the social shame of having to admit it, even if it wasn't a human that did it. The island of Pemba went literally into hysteria, with many men in uproar claiming they had been sodomized by the Popobawa during the night. After a couple of weeks, the attacks stopped. There was another period of attacks that took place in the 1980s in an isolated village around the main island of Zanzibar, and then nothing more until April 1995 made its presence on the main island, with the aforementioned Majaka Hamad being one of the high-profile earliest victims. He claims that he knew the whole thing was not a dream because he woke up from it and his house was being trashed. "I couldn't only just see it, I could also feel it, but some people in my house could see it as well. Those who've got the spirits in their heads," meaning having an open mind towards magic and folklore, could see it. Everybody in the house was terrified. They were outside screaming, "Huyo! Huyo! Huyo!" It means the Popobawa is in there. He claims to have had a bad pain in his ribs where it crushed him. Then went on to say he didn't believe in spirits, so maybe that's why it attacked him. Maybe it will attack anybody who doesn't believe, he warned. It is believed that there is no known protection against an attack by the Popobawa, except for seeking safety in numbers. As a result, whole families in the 1990s took to sleeping arm in arm in front of their houses on the porches. Many said that the Popobawa took human form during the day. It was a shapeshifter. This led to more hysteria, as innocent people had fingers pointed at them by terrified and paranoid citizens. Unfortunately, this led to, as expected, violent attacks, including a mentally ill man who was hacked to death in the streets after apparently confessing that he was the Popobawa. Another curious factor is during the attacks, the country's main hospitals treated men with bruises, broken ribs and other injuries which the victims blamed on the creature. By June 1995, the Popobawa was gone. Even the skeptics admit that the true believers are not lying, and the attacks do seem to be real in terms of the injuries, both psychological and physical, left on these men. Once again, this Fortean event seems to flare up during times of political and social uncertainty. Naturally, there are also Freudian overtones to this. In a land and culture where homosexuality is deeply frowned upon to the point where it's extremely dangerous being gay, the Popobawa may represent some upswell of the Jungian shadow, perhaps even as a real entity, if not a psychic force generated by the repressed psyche of men undergoing paranoid episodes regarding their own sexuality. Either way, the Popobawa is one of the best documented entity sightings, as not only do we have multiple witnesses, but we also have very good medical reports demonstrating injuries of men who've been brought into the hospitals late at night by their families. When will the Popobawa return? When once again a shadow is cast over the land of Zanzibar.